Right. Again, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the December 2025 ANC3C Planning, Zoning, Housing, and Economic Development Committee meeting. No decisions are made at this meeting. This is for review and discussion before we would vote on anything at our December public meeting, which is December 15th. Okay, so we have a number of items on the agenda this evening. Um, I actually grouped them by Woodley Park and Cleveland Park, since that made sense to me at the time. So we're going to start out with the discussion of BZA application case number 21400 for Aidan Montessori School at 2700 27th Street to construct a front addition to existing detached floor style plus penthouse private school building in the R3 zone. So, who from the project team will be presenting
Good
and brief?
evening. Meredith Moldenhauer from Cozen O'Connor. I'll be presenting along with Jamie Rue, and we have additional members of our team present to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm making you both co-hosts so you'll be able to share your screens. And
Okay, great.
welcome, and you can get started whenever you are ready.
Okay, great. Here. Can everybody see the presentation? Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, so first I'll just I introduce myself, but I also want to introduce those that are present today from Aidan Montessori. So if Jamie can get off mute and introduce herself along with Philip and then John, that'd be great.
Hi, I'm Jamie Rue. I'm the head of school at Aidan. I'm delighted to be here.
Hi, I'm Philip Katinas. I'm the Chief Operations Officer. This is my eighth school year actually at Aidan, so I know that and love the neighborhood very much, and happy to be here too.
And I'm John O'Drill from Big Tent Design Studio, the architect working with the Aidan Montessori team.
Wonderful. Well, I'll just set the stage quickly and then turn over to Jamie to give a little bit of background about the school. The property that we're talking about this evening is on Woodley Road and 27th Street. You can see it's an entire square location here, a large site on the R3 zone. It also has an alley in the rear and along the side of the property. I'm going to turn it over to Jamie just to walk a little bit through the property as well as then through a little bit about the school.
Hi there. So I'm going to talk a little bit. You'll see the school there, but we'll talk a little just about Aidan to give you a little background. So Aidan's been here in the city since 1961. We're the oldest Montessori school in DC, one of the oldest in the nation and even the world. We've got an international reputation for our little niche Montessori work. We moved to our current location to this amazing neighborhood in 1995, and we feel really lucky to be a part of such an incredible neighborhood. You'll see some of our toddlers there in the picture. We have 8 classrooms serving children from 18 months through 6th grade, and a lot of them continue on to other schools in the neighborhood. We have a total enrollment now of about 150 students, and nearly half, between a third and a half, are within walking distance. So a lot of community members there. And I think on the next slide, just a few more cute pictures of our kiddos as I talk about just who we are and our mission, which is to help children really become independent and self-motivated and socially responsible citizens of the world. And a huge part of that is not only our community that we help them develop in the school with their classmates, but the community outside the school. So some of you have seen us out there with kiddos picking up trash and other things like that. So just wanted to give you a little introduction to who we are and a brief little rundown on us.
Thank you so much. And so I'm going to walk through a little bit about the project as well as in the zoning relief. We do have John, the project architect, available to answer any questions, but I'm going to walk through it just quickly for efficiency of time. So you can see the existing site is currently located and kind of hugs the public alley. There is parking along the rear of the site, along the rear alley. There is a building restriction line, and then there's the existing staircase that is located here right now. The obviously the large stair. There's no ADA compliant access into the building. For anyone that wants to get access, they have to actually walk through a classroom, and obviously cannot access the main lobby that is up these large stairs. The intent is to resolve that and to provide a welcoming ADA compliant lobby for the school, the students, and those that are visiting. The intent is to build a minor addition out on the front of the property that is still within the building restriction line, but not impacting the playground space that is obviously very limited and critical for a use like this. It is then to provide an ADA ramp down and into the existing, newly developed lobby. There would be bicycle parking located closer to the building, as well as a small entryway for the project. You can see here is a proposed rendering of the addition. As you can see, the intent is to
Did we freeze?
There's lost audio.
Okay. First, I was worried that it was me, but
Lost audio of the speaker.
Meredith, I think, is frozen.
yeah, I think she is frozen. Oh dear.
I'm happy to just jump in, or John, if you want to jump in and talk a little bit through while we get Meredith back, so we don't waste time here. Oh, is she there? No. John, do you want to talk a little more?
Sure, I'll
Oh,
continue if we could put the slides back up.
yeah, she had them. So hang on, let me,
Oh,
I have them here. Um,
oh, I think she's back.
oh, is she? Okay.
I'm back. I'm sorry. I apologize about that. It seemed to kick me off. Let me just see if I can reshare my screen. I'm going to turn my camera off just to try to save. Okay, can everybody see that now?
Yes.
Okay, so where as I was describing, I think when I froze that there's you can see here the ramp access and then the new ADA compliant access for the lobby for the school. Here you can see an existing comparison from the existing to the proposed new site. Here's another comparison further down the street. And here's a final comparison as well. The application is seeking variance relief from the lot occupancy requirement. The existing structure is already over the permitted maximum lot occupancy at 40% lot occupancy. We are seeking to go to 47% lot occupancy. All of the requirements would be complied with. The application does satisfy the three prongs of the variance test. First, the fact that the property is uniquely affected by a confluence of factors, given that the
Oh dear, I think we might have lost her again.
I can jump in, and then Meredith, if she jumps in when she can. But we have I think the confluence of factors she was talking about is just the limited lot size and being bounded by alleys on both ends. So there's limit to how, where we could, what space we could work with. Um, oh, and it's her slides. I keep forgetting when they stick around there. So that's one piece in that meets those zoning requirements. Let me just pull up the slideshow and get to that slide again. And I'll share.
We can see.
Can you see it? Okay. And the so without the variance, it becomes kind of practically difficult for us to be able to make this change for the accessibility, and we feel like it largely can be done without any substantial detriment, as listed there for those demonstrations. Oh, and here she's here we're describing that. So it's the modernization pieces for accessibility and ADA compliance, as well as the limitation of the lot with the roads and the alleys. And so this is the particular relief that works. And I think she's popping back in, so I'm gonna. Meredith, are you here? See if she had anything. There you are. I've got it up here on the screen, Meredith. I finished the other slide.
Okay. I'm just, I apologize, everybody, for my challenge with my technology today. Lost this other side. So as indicated, the property is in exceptional condition. As outlined here, the fact that the property was built originally in 1967 and does not have ADA compliance. Second, the fact that the property is bounded by 2 public alleys. Next slide. The property does face practical difficulty in not being able to provide sufficient accessibility through its main entrance, and the challenge of the existing footprint to modernize that without minimizing or impacting existing classroom space or layouts. In addition to that, the lot configuration is bounded by a building restriction line and 2 alleys, minimizing locations for rear or side additions. Next slide. We believe the property would be in harmony with the zone plan and public good, as it is the intended use of obviously the neighborhood for a residential and providing services such as schools. In addition to that, complying with ADA entrance requirements would be in the public good, as well as providing additional services. And we have also submitted the project for design review under HPRB and was approved by HPRB in the November 20th meeting. Next slide. With that, we will conclude our presentation and be available for any questions.
Super, thank you. We'll start out with questions from commissioners and committee members, and then move if anybody has any questions or comments from the public. I'm glad that you mentioned the HPRB reviews complete and approved.
No.
Gowan, did you want to start out, since is this your SMD?
Yeah, it's my SMD, and welcome. I think it looks great. I thought maybe Jamie, you could say something about your outreach to the neighborhood and any kind of feedback you've gotten thus far.
Yeah, so we actually had children and staff walk around and deliver some postcards with a little description of the project and the goals to the neighborhood. And Philip, my COO, who's here, actually accompanied the children. And they overall, I think we had people were charmed by the children, excited about the project, the questions that came up. We aren't asking to increase enrollment or anything like that. So everyone seemed, we want to just stay the same. We just want to be, want to be a little more accessible.
Great, thank you. John.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just looking at the application. It's kind of hard for me to see how this meets the standard for a variance, which is a very high standard. But you say things are, there are, I forget the words of the regulations, but exceptional standards, your practical difficulties. The practical difficulties have been going on for 60 years. So it's nothing new. The BZA as you might know, as I assume you know, denied a variance just a couple of, just up the street on the same side of 27th Street. The BZA members, you seem to think that the variance that they wanted was a good idea, but they couldn't grant it because it didn't meet the very high standards of the, for a variance. As I said, I'm kind of struck by the fact that you're filing with the BZA didn't have more meat. And I guess it's Meredith who might respond to that
Yeah, let's let Meredith
Yeah.
respond.
Absolutely, sure. I mean, the variance test can be satisfied by what's called a legal confluence of factors for the first prong, and we believe that we do have a confluence of factors that create a unique condition that is unique to the surrounding area. One, we have, a corner lot. Two, we have a unique corner lot that is then surrounded by two public alleys. And then based on the fact that the property has an existing footprint, it limits any and creates a practical difficulty for complying with lot occupancy requirements and building any additional, either one, acquiring and assembling additional lots, or two, building any other addition in any other location for providing additional access. And so based on that, we believe that we do satisfy the standard. And this is, looking at additional kind of other cases, other situations in which the board has granted variance tests. We are also talking about a small degree of relief here. We're talking about going from 44% to 47%.
Oh dear. Has Meredith frozen again?
No, I read your filing, and and repeating it isn't going to convince me any more than reading it did. So,
Okay. Meredith, are you still frozen, or did you have anything else you guys wanted to add there?
No, I mean, obviously, Mr. Goodman doesn't believe that we can convince him. We believe we can convince the board, and we also believe that we satisfy the legal test. And we, also believe that we have done, a positive amount of community outreach. We'd obviously be happy to engage with him more if he has some specific concerns other than the legal standard that go directly to potentially his role in the community. We'd be happy to engage him in that regard.
Okay, thank you. Also, ADA was just approved in 1990, so it wasn't exactly 60 years ago, those standards. Any other commissioners or committee members have anything they'd want to add before we go out to the general public?
Just to say thank you for the presentation tonight. Really appreciate the outreach you've done to the community and taking the time to come and talk to us. I mean, seems like a great project. I mean, we're talking about making it easier to get to school, so seems pretty straightforward to me. Thank you.
I second what Jay has said. I also do enjoy when children get to watch things be constructed on their school properties. I think there's quite a learning experience to be had there. All right, anybody in the community, if you want to raise your virtual hand, there at the bottom or come on screen and wave to us, we will take comments or questions. All right, hearing and seeing none. Commissioner Kripke, did you want to go over next steps, or did you want me to take that, or?
No, you can go ahead. I mean, my intention is to offer support from the ANC for the project, for the BZA application. So, Janelle, you seem like you've frozen on my screen. Oh, no, there you are. Um, is there anything else that we need to say? I mean, I'll draft something shortly and then we'll try to consider it in the next meeting. I think that's the process.
Yes. So we would vote on that at our December 15th meeting, and there's no need to do another presentation. And if there are any additional, concerns or anything that we would note on the form that we send BZA, I'm sure Gowan will reach out to you guys and let you know. And we'll put out the agenda for the meeting on the 15th next Monday. Wow. So thank you again. Appreciate it. And good seeing you all again. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Moving on to our next agenda item, which is the discussion of ABCA application A or B 134075 for a new medical cannabis retailer license to be located at 2653 Connecticut Avenue Northwest. The proposed facility will be approximately 1,500 square feet of space, will provide cannabis flowers, cannabis concentrates, and a line of edible products and home delivery services to registered patients in Washington, D.C. They're requesting delivery, safe use treatment facility, and a summer garden endorsement. And I believe that we have with us the applicant, who is Corey. I thought
Yes,
that's
Corey Barnett.
okay, great. If do you have anything you want to screen share with us, or
I do, as I begin to sort of introduce the our vision around this facility. What I want to be able to do is to maybe bring up a couple of slides from our presentation that will kind of like maybe give you an idea of what it is we mean.
sure. I just made you a co-host, so you should be able to see the share screen button
Yeah.
there. Awesome. The floor is yours, and thank you again for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me. One, as a longtime business operator in the city and one of the original medical cannabis license holders, I personally have operated a cannabis business in the city since 2013 as part of the licensed medical cannabis program. My name is Corey Barnett. I am the owner of District Growers, and District Growers is seeking to open its first dispensary on Connecticut Avenue at the address as laid out, 2653 Connecticut Avenue. Let me start by saying that one, District Growers has been around for quite a while. Traditionally, we have made products and provided flowers for patients in the medical cannabis program here in Washington, D.C. But one of the things that the program has always been missing is a viable place that is both comfortable and of low to no impact to the community when it comes to the consumption of cannabis. And having spent a lot of time at the address, just kind of surveying the area and trying to get a feel for what goes on in the area and the market generally around the address. There's quite I'm sure for people who have spent time just sort of walking up and down that area, what you've noticed is that there, from time to time, is significant cannabis use just outside the facility and in and around that block. What we want to do is, in part, provide a solution to that situation, as well as introduce what we think is the right way of operating a dispensary. Now, for those of you who have entered dispensaries in and around Washington, D.C., one of the things you'll notice is that they tend to be run much like I hate the term, but head shops where people go buy tobacco products and buy tobacco devices and different things of that nature. However, the medical side of the industry, for a large part, has operated largely like a medical office might operate, in that You have a traditional sort of waiting room, and then you have a medicine room where you go in and you see a number of different products. While we will hold to that traditional format, what's different and what's new and what we believe is exciting about this project is that our patients will also have a place that they can actually consume cannabis that is away from public viewing and of no real disturbance to the people outside of the facility or anything of that nature. And what we like about the facility is and let me just kind of share a few slides here. What we like about the facility, hold on for a second here. Let me try to bring this up. Can you guys see
Yes.
see a slide that's titled "A Differentiated Cannabis Coffee Shop"?
Yep.
Perfect. What we like about the feel of and layout of the building as it is currently designed is it really fits the kind of concept that we want to house. We like the fact that it currently operates as a low scale, for lack of a better phrase, coffee shop and quasi restaurant. We intend to maintain the integrity of that. Per the regulations, we are not allowed to prepare infused product on site. And so this is not the kind of business where people will come and um, have prepared meals or have food that is already infused prepared for them, but rather you'll be able to come and get the same things that you would normally enjoy in a normal coffee shop or bakery or low scale restaurant where you can buy pastries and different things of that nature. What we will offer is additives for that are marked with concentration amounts that allow people to infuse product themselves. And so if you were to have a mocktail and you wanted to actually infuse that mocktail, we would provide you with an additive, a flavored additive or tincture that you could use to infuse that. In terms of the way we envision the facility to look and feel, we desperately want to up tier the look and feeling on the inside of the building and really create something that is more of a comfort area, something that is relaxing, a place where people can come and open their laptop and work during the day, and then at night maybe come with two or three of their friends, enjoy a meal, a tasty beverage that if they so chose to infuse, they could. Secondly, we want to say out front that it is not our intent to allow cannabis consumption outside in the seating that is in front of the building. In some of our conversations with some of the community in and around the area, we have noted that that might be a concern. We did apply for an outdoor use permit. Our vision is to build a deck in the back of the facility that has a high wall that prevents visibility from the alley or from anyone who would be an onlooker to the facility. And what's more, restrict any and all use on the outside in front of the facility. Um, the last offering that we would have is a small business incubator that would be on site. Um, as someone who worked with Chairman Mendelson and with the city council to craft legislation that is leading to or has led to the shutdown to and to the over proliferation of illegal dispensaries that have operated in the marketplace. We're certainly sensitive to the numerous small business operators that were providing income for themselves and their families through selling in these spaces. And what we want to do is provide an outlet for some of the talented chefs and for some of the talented people to continue to be able to prepare standard food that can later be infused if customers so chose to do so on site. And so we intend to use the basement area as which is currently set up like a kitchen and is zoned as such to allow them to continue to prepare products that could be sold within the facility or packaged and taken home for people's consumption at their home. With that, I will pause and entertain any questions that you or the community might have. And again, thank you guys for allowing us to talk about our business.
Great, super. Thank you. Anyone from the commission or the committee have any questions at this time? Godwin.
Thanks for the presentation. Appreciate it. I will say, for your information, I've heard a lot of concern from neighbors about this new business. I have to say it's mostly negative. And so that unfortunately, I think you're starting with a pretty negative reception from the neighborhood thus far. I have a few questions. One is there've been I probably don't understand this quite well enough, but there have been already been several sort of smoke shops or I don't know if they were dispensaries or exactly what they were, but there were like at least two and maybe more that were in the Woodley Park Commercial District over the last couple of years that have all closed. And so I'm wondering why you have a theory of your business that is going to succeed, whereas other ones seem to have failed in recent history.
One
Sure.
closed, one still there.
Sure. All around the city, you've had a number of so-called smoke shops that have closed. Let me say that, per my memory, prior to this year, there have never been more than 9 licensed facilities in the entire city. Most of the smoke shops that have opened illegally. And while they may go under the banner or hide under the banner of being a smoke shop, they have broken a lot of the city's rules and have operated largely without rules or regulations. And so, just driving around the city and certainly in this area a while ago, what you might see was neon signs that light up in windows. You see marijuana signs in the fronts of windows, and you see signage. I guess those sort of pyramid signs in the walkways, advertising cannabis and different things like that. We've never been that kind of an operator. I have owned 2 dispensaries in Washington, D.C. One was the Metropolitan Wellness Center, which was on Capitol Hill. I owned that facility and operated that facility from 2013 to I want to say 2022, 2021 sort of time frame when we until and at that point in time we moved over to Massachusetts Avenue, and we operated the Kinfolk dispensary there. And both of those were Metropolitan Wellness was moved and became Kinfolk, and then we later tabled the Kinfolk license, largely because of the overproliferation of dispensaries. It's something that we're sensitive to and that we are hyper aware of, which is why we worked with the city and worked with Chairman Mendelson and the city council to craft legislation to more clearly define the rules and to shut down illegal operators that were, in our opinion, over imposing on the community around them and certainly over imposing on the industry. We believe that because you've had a number of these businesses that have been forcibly closed down, and I believe one of the ones that was up on Connecticut Avenue, I want to say, what is that area called? It is as you cross over the bridge past the zoo. I forget what that small area is called. But there's a business up there like where Medium Rare is, if you know where I am, the area that I'm in.
Mhm.
There was one up there that was forcibly closed. There have been several others that are in the general facility vicinity that were also closed. Um, we've always operated within the licensed framework and the regulated framework. And so that framework restricts the way that we can advertise. We cannot have neon signs in the window. We cannot display marijuana leaves. And the way that we market is highly regulated. Even the way that we package product and different things of that nature are highly regulated. And all the way down to the ventilation that is required for our facility. All of that is highly regulated. And we believe that in a market where the number of operators has been radically constricted, and the city is actively shutting down illegal operations, we believe that the industry has returned to a sense of viability. And we believe that a format like what we're offering will be one that is well received in the marketplace and that our business will be successful. Otherwise, we certainly wouldn't be investing the amount of capital that we are.
Okay. I saw that Samuel Latower, who's the single member district commissioner for this area, has been able to join us. So, Samuel, I know you have a limited amount of time due to the real paid job conflict that you have. So, if you have any questions or comments, I'll give you this time now.
Yeah, thank you so much, Commissioner Pagets. And my
Hi,
apologies again for not being able to join tonight. I'm calling from a work event down in Florida, but I just want to express my gratitude to everybody that's reached out surrounding this new business coming into the neighborhood. Corey, I look forward to connecting with you off the meeting to learn a little bit more about your vision for what will replace Petit Monde here on Connecticut Avenue. But from everyone, thank you again for kind of the information and feedback that you've provided to the ANC as we determine best steps forward, whether that's to file a petition or whether to allow the enterprise to take off here in Woodley Park. Regardless of the circumstance, look forward to working with everyone to make sure that their needs are met. So thanks again. My apologies, and I look forward to going back and watching the recording of this meeting to catch all that I missed. But until then, thank you.
Before we go to John and then other committee and commissioners, I just want to ask a question regarding settlement agreements and if you have any settlement agreements or had any settlement agreements with your previous location.
No, we were actually able to, we were well received in Ward 6. And we had been a longtime operator in Ward 6, and we worked with the council member there, both council members during our time there in Ward 6. And we were not restricted by a community settlement agreement or didn't have to put one in place, weren't even asked to put one in place. In fact, the bid over on Massachusetts Avenue, we were active in working with the bid operators or the bid managers over there, business improvement district people over there in helping to sort of keep that area alive. COVID really hit that little corridor pretty hard that we were on. And we actually worked with them to address the needs as it related to some of the unlicensed facilities that were operating all around us there as well.
Okay, thank you. John.
I was told, I didn't try to check this myself, but I was told that that we couldn't get a copy of your actual application without a Freedom of Information Act request. Would you be willing to share your application with this group?
Yeah, sure. I don't have a problem sharing our application with the
Great. That would be helpful. Thanks.
And Janelle, am I pronouncing your name right, Janelle?
Yeah.
I want to say also that we would welcome a discussion and welcome the idea of putting something. Certainly, it helps us to know how to be good neighbors in the marketplace. And to the degree that there are reasonable requests, we certainly want to try and find a way to fulfill those kinds of requests.
Great. Thank you for being amenable to that discussion, because I don't think that keeping small businesses out of a community is the right way to go about things, but making sure that there are clear boundaries and enforcement if those boundaries are broken, I think is important.
Sure, and you only have to ask a little bit down at the city council. I'm one of the business operators that has been down and down at the Wilson building, actively approaching the city council to try and find ways of making sure that the industry can thrive and be healthy while simultaneously operating in a way that sort of benefits our city and the patients that need access, as well as making sure that the business operators are good community participants.
Great, thank you. Any other commissioners or committee members have any questions or comments at this time? All right, anyone from the rest of the group, you can raise your virtual hand or come on screen. Adrian and then Kimberly.
Hi, thank you, Janelle. My name is Adrian Jameson. Mr. Barnett, it's interesting to meet you here via Zoom. You've mentioned that you've been around the neighborhood a bit, scouring a bit as to what goes on our block on Woodley Park. I'm surprised then that I haven't met you, because my program and my center for Stanford University will be sharing a wall with you. So your building and our university center with undergraduate students in residence will be sharing a wall with your facility. We've been in this location since 1988, and I'm just very surprised you have not popped by to talk to us a little bit about it.
Well, I'd be happy to.
I think you should, because I have some very, very considerable concerns. And it's largely because we are housing young people, of course, who are on a very tight and busy schedule. They come from Stanford University to spend a term with us, live in the building. I'm their faculty member. I teach at Stanford, but mostly here, and direct this program. And I know many of the neighbors who are on this call who come in and out of our center to openings in our art gallery. Our art gallery is the part of our center that directly shares a wall with you, along with student residences on the upper floors. So I have a couple of concerns about this. I realize we're not a K through 12 operation, so we don't have an obvious, standing as far as the age of our students go, but it is also true that we do a lot of programming with District of Columbia Public Schools. So most recently in our art gallery, we've been doing joint exhibits with the Duke Ellington School for the Arts. So those kids come over to our place and install their end of the year projects. We have their families, their other colleagues at the Duke Ellington School with us for openings and for programs around that. We are planning in our gallery, which is, by the way, open to the public 7 days a week, but we are planning in our gallery a special exhibit around the 250th anniversary of the Declaration that will be involving programs for children. That will be opening sometime in the spring. I have concerns about the children from local schools, the children coming up and down the street, going to the zoo, coming in and out as well in this regard. So I do have some concerns about your location in that sense. I also have some concerns about what goes on between our two buildings. We frequently take in, and there's no way around this, we've had all kinds of HVAC people and others explore this, but the odors of cooking and wonderful food and all that stuff that have come from Petit Monde, and before that from Petit Plat, and before that from the previous restaurant, permeate into our building throughout the day and evening, which means that the odors from your establishment will do that as well. I'm concerned about the nature of those. I'm concerned about this garden you're proposing for the back and enclosed, because we have an outdoor terrace that we use with our students that will be directly adjacent to it on the second floor. And I don't see any way that you can control the flow of fumes and fragrances, shall we say, that will come from your terrace in the back to ours. I'm concerned about the seating walls in the front. You're saying that most of this would take place in the back, but as you can see, I have concerns in the front and the back. I have concerns about my students coming in and out with this next door. I mean, it's interesting. I heard about the possibility of your location next to us actually from two of my current students who go to Petit Monde for coffee in the mornings, and they came running home and said, "We have to talk to you about something. We're really upset. We think that there's a cannabis dispensary that's going to move in the place of Petit Monde." Now, they happen to like the coffee at Petit Monde, but it's a little more than that. They didn't think that this is college students, and these are some pretty fun college students, but they didn't think that this was a great idea. So, overall, I know you have a business to run. I know this location makes sense to you. I take quite seriously that, you mean to run an appropriate business in an appropriate place. But I think you can understand where I, as a professor and with an in loco parentis responsibility for a whole bunch of young people who are coming in and out, I mean, I can imagine how parents dropping off their kids to live with us are going to think about this when they see it. And I'm not comfortable with it either. So I wish you had stopped by to tell me about it, that I hadn't had to find out about this from two students running home with their workdays in hand. But, would like to know more.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I would like to give Mr. Barnett a chance to respond here, because
Yep, I'm done. I just want to finish. Okay.
I know. Thank you. I know many of the concerns are shared by many in the community. So I think it is definitely important to address as many of those as possible in this meeting, and then perhaps you guys can meet further outside of this meeting to further iron things out. So, Mr. Barnett.
Yeah, Ms. Jameson, one, thank you for expressing those concerns. I do want to touch on a few different things you said previously, but I have actually been over to the facility. I saw the go-go tribute that you guys did some not too long ago, or that was housed in the building right next door. And I did come over at that point in time. I'm not sure why our paths hadn't crossed or what have you, but we are incredibly intrigued by what you guys are doing over next door. I did not know that the Stanford School was operating over there, but I will say that we are not something that's just, we're not a business, or the licensed operators are not just willy-nilly open to the public. You have to be a member to join a dispensary. You have to meet the requirements of the medical marijuana program. And certainly, as a father of two daughters who have grown up and gone to public school in Washington, D.C., and who graduated from the Duke Ellington School of the Arts, my oldest daughter was a vocalist, and my youngest daughter was a dancer, and my wife and I continue to support the school in a lot of the programs that go on over there. So one, I applaud what you guys might be doing with the Duke Ellington School, and certainly it would be way out of line for us to be intrusive on kids or anything like that. We certainly are not able to service kids, would not allow kids inside, and different things like that. As it relates to the front of the building, before we would let anyone utilize the front for the consumption of cannabis and cannabis products, we would shut down the front. We do not believe that sitting out on the sidewalk, even eating an edible or taking in cannabis, is something that is warranted, and it is not our intent to utilize that front for that purpose. However, the back, we are certainly willing to consider any alternatives that might be apparent or possible for us to operate in harmony with you guys next door. Now, as it relates to the smell of food that is kind of like permeating through the walls or what have you, what I can say is that it is not our intent to operate with food on the scale that a full-scale restaurant would have. But more or less, we are envisioning the preparation of things like pastries, things like sandwiches, and things like that. Certainly not the kind of things that require a lot of deep fryer or cooking and things of that nature. And so, if there has been an issue with the smell of food and the smell of the kitchen, then we can probably speak with confidence in saying that I don't think that that would be the case with what our intended format is. Now, as it relates to the smell of cannabis, we've had to deal with that before. Kinfolk was operating right next to an apartment building, a high-rise apartment building, and we shared a wall with that high-rise apartment building and got absolutely no complaints from any other people simply because all of the product has that is sold in the facility has to be packaged. All of the product that is stored in the facility has to be packaged. And typically, as a result of that, you don't have nearly the level of smell that you would have if you had open canisters of cannabis and things like that. But obviously, because people may choose to utilize inhalants and actually smoke cannabis, that can be potential concern. So what we've done in an effort to mitigate that, because we are also concerned that some of our customers who may choose not to use cannabis may not like the smell of inhalants and things of that nature. Um, we can mitigate that largely with filtration, and the city actually requires that per the regulation. But beyond that, I would certainly be willing to and would make my door open to you. And I don't mind coming by to reach out to you and sit down and talk about your concerns and ways that we might mitigate even further than that.
Great. Thank you. And do you mind if I put your email address into this chat since it's on the public hearing notice?
Sure, absolutely, not a problem at all. And in
Cool.
fact, you can put my phone number there too as well if you'd like.
Yeah, I do believe I did put the notice in the chat, which has all of that information. So I'll put this link in there again, and that has the email address and the phone number there, so you can reach out. Um, just a point of clarification on the medical cannabis program in DC.
Hmm.
You need to be a DC resident to participate, correct?
You need to either be a DC resident or a patient from an approved state. And we're told who the approved states are, or you need to be an adult living in the district that attests to the use of cannabis for medical purposes. And so this is not like some of the, I think, head shops that were mentioned a little bit earlier, where anyone who's 21 can just go walking in and purchase cannabis or anything like that.
Okay.
And by the way, everyone who is a member has to get approved by APCA.
And what does that approval process involve?
So they have to fill out an application, they have to pay a fee, and then they have to send in, I want to say, I think it's two headshots or two photos, and they have to provide an approved ID, and then ABCA will either allow them in or get the proper information that gets them access to the program. Also, they have to do an attestation if they do not have a doctor's recommendation.
Okay. Thank you.
Hmm.
Wanted to make it clear that people aren't just allowed to walk in and
Yeah, no. In fact, um, when you come into the facility, you would come into a reception area. In that reception area, you would not be able to see cannabis, interact with cannabis, or anything like that. Your credentials would have to be checked each and every time. And then you would be buzzed through a door that would then get you access to a room where you can make your purchase. And then if you chose to go into the lounge, you would have to be buzzed through yet another door or granted access to that facility where you can sit and either eat food and do whatever there. So it's not even if you do walk into the reception area, you're not interacting with cannabis at that point in time, and you would have to have the proper credentials to even go through and actually interact with cannabis.
Okay. Thank you for that info.
Mhm.
Kimberly, you're up next.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Kim Harrington. I am a Woodley Park resident, and I have two children, a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old. And I have to say, I have some real concerns about the presence of this establishment in the neighborhood. And Mr. Barnett, if you have spent some time in the neighborhood, I think you would notice that many, many dozens of school children walking to and from school pass by that location, starting at 7:30, 8 in the morning, all throughout the day, coming back from school. In addition to what Adrian said, there are many thousands of tourists, right, with children who are walking by the establishment each and every day, getting off the metro, going to the zoo. So as a mother, I do really have some big concerns about the idea of my children walking by. I think the requested hours for this operation is 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. for operating hours. That's quite concerning to have children walking to school way early in the morning and walking by this establishment. I have to say one other issue. This block of Woodley Park, frankly, only has about 20 businesses that are actually operating at this point. I think we already do have a cannabis dispensary, so having, another one, roughly 10% of the operating businesses on the block being cannabis dispensaries, really will change the nature of the block. And it's something I do have quite a number of concerns about. And I know I'm not alone in sharing those concerns. So I think if are pursuing this and want to have acceptance by the neighborhood and the parents who walk by this establishment each and every day, I think you have a real uphill battle to do some really serious community engagement, in the coming weeks and months. But I know that a lot of people have a lot of concerns. Thanks.
Yeah, let me also say that I've lived in the city since 1999, right? I've raised two daughters in the city who have gone to public schools in the city, and I certainly have been a business owner in the city of several different businesses, one in the cannabis industry and some outside of the cannabis industry. And it is never our intent, and nor would it ever be our intent to put children in harm's way or what have you. One of the reasons why I have actively worked with the city to make sure that we have tight controls on the industry is because I am a father and I operate in this city and I have had businesses operating in this city. And as someone who used to walk his child to school and drop his child off at school, certainly I'm sensitive to the types of businesses that would be operating in and around the area. Cannabis businesses, I think, in my opinion, get a bad rap. It is, for whatever reason, this perception that we're out peddling to children or anything like that. Nothing could be farther from the truth. We are here because there are patients that have a need. We are here because cannabis has been proven to be a viable medicine, and we are trying to provide that medicine to patients who have a need. And these are patients that are of age, they're not children, and things of that nature. We don't have signage outside welcoming just people off the street. We don't have neon signs in the window that are advertising cannabis or marijuana or anything of that nature. We take extra steps to make sure that in the industry, at least, well, we take extra steps to make sure that the packaging is not something that would lure kids in. There are very, very tight restrictions on what we're able to produce. We can't produce things like candies. We can't produce things that the Department of Health or APCA would see as being luring to children or what have you. And so you don't see cannabis gummies. You don't see cannabis lollipops and candies and different things of that nature in a licensed facility. Um, and so, I understand your concern. I hear your concern, and to the degree that there are viable suggestions on what we're able to do, we're open to considering those.
Great, thank you.
Mhm.
We'll take one more question, and then again, I'll encourage folks to reach out to Samuel, the SMD Commissioner for 3C01, for further discussion on this, because we have two more agenda items, and I don't want to go too late this evening. So, David,
Okay. Audio coming through okay, Janelle?
you're good.
Okay. I'll try to be brief here because I really want to object to this as much as Adrian and others have said for the same reasons about exposure. It really does not matter what your intentions are. We've heard what your intentions are. What matters is what the impact is. And we are in the community. We have to live with the impact. We're already living with the impact. And I'm very concerned about the exposure and to the toxicity from fugitive emissions, from the unknown particulate emissions that are in cannabis smoke that are going to be exposed not just to children in the neighborhood and all the children that will be passing through on the way to the zoo, but also to people like myself who live in the community. I've lived here since 2010, and I'm within steps of what you would propose to be an outdoor smoking facility that has barriers for visual blockage, but you said nothing about managing the fugitive emissions and the toxicity therein. So I'm very concerned about this, and I'll probably cut it there because I would repeat the objections that many others have raised here. Thank you for the time.
Yeah, I don't know that I can. Um, I don't know that it would be productive for me to try and tout the medicinal benefits of cannabis. I think that the studies have been clear. The medical benefits have been clear. We have a Department of Health that sees it as a medicine. The residents of the city of Washington, D.C. have voted multiple times, in fact, about the benefits of cannabis for medicinal purposes. Again, this is not a business that is here to service the general public, but is here to service people who have a medicinal need. And the city takes steps to make sure that the program is not being corrupted and not being used inappropriately. That's why they've shut down dozens of illegal operators that are not operating with the kind of controls that we are required to operate with. Again, to the degree that there are certain mitigants that we are able to provide reasonably to be accommodating and make sure that we are operating in harmony with the community, we're open to those suggestions. And to the degree that we can provide them, we absolutely would.
Adam, last question is yours. Please be brief.
Thank you for coming. Excuse my voice. I'm either having a cold or getting over it. My question, you said that your plan was to have a coffee shop, but then I guess my confusion is that you have to get your ID check to go to the cannabis portion. So like if I wanted to buy a coffee and I didn't have a cannabis ID, can I still buy coffee?
Um, so while the one, Adam, thank you for asking that question. While the city has published regulations that allow for non-patients who are 21 or older to enter the lounge areas. It is our vision that our facility would be for the use by people who are in the program. However, if someone has a caregiver or if someone is not in the medical program, does not want to use cannabis, and wants to purchase something as simple as a pastry or a sandwich or a coffee, we do intend to provide a method to be accommodating to that. But
Thank you.
in terms of interacting with cannabis, they would not be allowed to do that unless they're in the medical program.
Yeah, no, I guess what I was trying to get at is that I think people are sad to be losing the coffee shop. So I guess if that's a caveat, like we can use the coffee shop, that would be great.
Yeah, no, I am a fan of Petit Monde as well, which is why we intend to keep those guys in the facility and working in the kitchen and continue to provide a lot of the products that they currently provide. We may have to change up, or we intend to provide some changes to some of the food that is there, simply because we don't believe that the some of the food that is provided there, the cooked stuff, the fried food, and things of that nature, would be conducive for this kind of a format. But the coffee shop feel is something that we do not want to lose, and we think those guys do a great job there. I've gone there dozens of times, even before we even considered this project, and we certainly want to keep that feel and offering of coffee and different things of that nature.
Okay. Rebecca, your hand was blending into your background. I'm going to let you go, but I'm going to ask you to be really succinct here.
Okay, I will. I'm seconding. I'm very concerned. I'm a Woodley Park parent, very, very concerned. We've been here for many years now, and our neighborhood storefronts were hit very hard by COVID. We lost a lot of really nice family-oriented locations. And Mr. Barnett, you seem to have a very open heart. You've got a very smart way of approaching your business, and it's clear that you're a family man and you care a lot about your community, and I applaud that very much. But this is a neighborhood where there are a ton of children. It would be really near a number of different schools. It's near a gymboree. It's near an Aikido place. I mean, this just does not seem to me the right location for any kind of a medical facility to be treating sick patients of any kind. It seems to me that there must be many other locations around the city that are for a medicinal dispensary to be located where it would be your clientele would be more appropriate, would be more likely to be located as it is. I have real concerns about having something like this, frankly, because, and I hear you on the research, but there also are countervailing views and a lot of countervailing research on the negative impacts of cannabis use, particularly when it is undertaken early in life. And it's all a matter of exposure. And the more exposure our kids have to normalizing this product, the more likely it is to be a problem for them later in life. And I am really concerned, and have heard a lot of concerns from other parents that this is just not the right location for this business, as well-intentioned and well-founded as it is.
Well, Ms. Gordon, again, like some of the other people that I've responded to here, thank you for voicing your concern. We do hear your concern, but we were very selective in where we chose to try and do this. One of the things that we are sensitive to is kind of the regulations on where these types of places can be put. The city deliberated very long about how close they could be together, what areas and what retail zones they could be in, and different things like that, because the city didn't want an overproliferation of storefronts. What I do believe that the city sort of has not fully addressed is for the people who are using this for medicinal needs. We certainly don't want them in apartment complexes and apartment operators and condo operators or condo facilities and smoking out on sidewalks and different things like that. And if someone has been in the city for more than 5, 10 years, certainly the amount of cannabis smoke that we're seeing outside the facilities and on the sidewalk and just moving through life here in Washington, D.C. has gone up substantially. It is these kinds of facilities where we're getting it out of the view of the general public. We're getting it out of and off of the sidewalk and out of in front where people are using as people are walking by with their kids and different things like that. We want to get away from that. We're trying to provide an inside facility or an in-back facility where people can utilize cannabis away from kids. This is not about people being out front smoking, and this is not about people walking down the sidewalks and different things like this. When people leave the facility, they will have packaged product that is not for view and different things like that. The packaging has to be such that people cannot see the actual contents of the package and things of that nature. So if people are concerned with children walking by and smelling cannabis or seeing cannabis, that's what's happening in the city right now, right? What's going on in Washington, D.C. right now is that people are walking up and down the streets smoking cannabis. What's happening in Washington, D.C. right now is that there are stores that have had low to no controls on who walks in and who purchases. And through the help of companies like District Growers and through the help of other operators in the medical side of the business, we've worked very hard to try and address the concerns of people just like yourself. People like me. I have 2 daughters, and I've been operating in the industry since 2013. And my daughters are now in college, and my daughters are thriving, healthy individuals. One just graduated from college and has moved back to Washington, D.C. and works with Pepco in their project finance group. And so I know the dangers, for lack of a better phrase, of cannabis use. I know how to control it. And if what we want to have is an environment that is protective rather than an environment that is willy-nilly, then what we have to be willing to do is to provide solutions. And unfortunately, the sort of just say no of mantra of the 80s and the early 90s hasn't really helped. But solutions like what we're providing are the kind of solutions that have proven to be beneficial to sidewalkscapes and environments where cannabis use is happening out in the open, to controlling that, reducing that, and getting it inside where it should be, out of the view of kids and out of the view of the general public.
Yeah,
And
and
that's
I appreciate that, Mr. Barnett. It's a really well thought out answer. I don't get to respond. Janelle.
We don't have time for this back and forth. I again encourage you to reach out to Samuel and
Okay.
reach out to Mr. Barnett and have a further discussion. I think that this has been really informative and that he has graciously answered a lot of questions. And uh yeah, I thank everyone for their time here in this discussion.
Thank you.
Guys.
Cool. Thank you again. Sorry we went a little long there. But I thought it was really informative and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cool. So next steps to come from Samuel after I follow up with him and he circles back with the community and the concerned folks. Thank you. Next up, I was hoping to make a switch here and hopefully this will be amenable to folks and do the discussion of BZA application case 21398 for 3431 Newark Street to construct a one-story addition to an existing detached accessory building and convert an accessory garage located in the rear of a detached two-story with cellar principal dwelling unit in the R1B zone. So, Mr. Sullivan.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'll make you a co-host and then you can kick it off and then we'll get to our next item. Hopefully you will be brief. Um,
I'll be as brief as I need to be for your purposes. It is a pretty simple application. We're asking for uh, building area relief for an accessory building. It's limited to the greater of 450 square feet or 30% of the required rear yard. In this case, that means 450 square feet. And we're asking for a footprint of 588. I'll share my screen and show the plan. So hopefully I have the correct screen. Are you looking at a plat?
yes.
Okay. So here's the area of the garage. It'll be a one-story garage for two cars. There's a small one-story or a one-space garage there now. This will be a two-space garage. Entered from the front. This is the front of the property. And on the plans, which were up here a second ago, let me see here. Okay, so here's where it is from the front street. So this footprint here is permitted, and we're asking for an additional 5 feet by 24. So we're asking for 588. We do have letters of support from both of the adjacent neighbors. And that's the special exception is just under the standard special exception test. No undue impact on neighbors' light and air or privacy. And they have staff approval for the historic preservation part of this as well.
You read my mind because that was my next question about HPRB.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think that's it. Yeah, if you have any questions.
do you
for
have
me.
any neighbors that are opposed? I know you
No,
mentioned ones that are supportive.
no.
Okay. Commissioners, committee members, any questions? And this is in which ANC is this in? Remind me, I'm apologizing here. Or which single member district?
Which,
Sorry.
let me
It's
see here.
05.
08.
Okay, so this is Rick's SMD, and I think he had some questions into your architect that will inform his support or not of
Okay.
the forward. So I think that's the only follow-up there. So
The architect's not here with
and
us, but
nor is Rick. So
oh, okay. And I don't know, it's not usually design. I mean, it's not for BZA. They're not concerned about design, so I'm not sure what.
I agree with you. But yeah, I don't see any other concerns from the rest of the commissioners here, or committee members. So I'll circle back with Rick and your team and do next steps to hopefully put it on the agenda for the 15th.
Okay,
And
thank you.
the agenda, I mean the consent calendar.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, as always, for being brief. All right. Next up, we have a presentation of an application. Well, the application's already been submitted for the closing of Public Alley and Square 2068. This is the alley behind Medium Rare, that strip of buildings. And this would facilitate uh, improving a service parking lot with development of a residential building. And the subject square is currently the parking lot located behind 3500 Connecticut Avenue. So Chris Martin, where'd you go? Perfect, is with us. Are you sharing screen or is someone else from your team sharing screen?
It's just me tonight, so I'd like to be able to share my screen if I can have access.
You can. All right, you should be a co-host now. And thank you for joining us again this evening.
Yep, thank you for having me participate. I appreciate that.
We can see.
You can see the presentation?
Yep.
Great. Do you want me to just start, or do you have anything you wanted to cover beforehand?
You can jump right in.
Sure. Okay. Well, first of all, I just want to thank everybody. I see a lot of neighbors on the call, and I appreciate them being here as well. Just to frame this conversation, we had a 2.5 hour meeting at the library on November 22nd, where we walked through these plans with the neighbors. Not everybody was able to attend, so I understand the ANC has requested that I have a brief overview of what we talked about, and to be able to share those plans so that anybody who wasn't able to attend is able to see them. I want to say that coming out of that meeting, again, sponsored by the council member, really appreciate him taking the time to pull everybody together. There are a number of deliverables that I'm responsible for, and the team and I are working on those. So we will have a subsequent meeting with the stakeholders and neighbors to be able to go through those updates. That has not yet been scheduled. So this presentation is exactly what we looked at 13 days ago. There's no deviation of that. I do have a couple of interesting updates, but that's about it. So with no further ado, just a reminder, with my cursor, you can see the existing 200 linear feet of frontage, medium rare to Dolan, the historic buildings. There are 4 current alleys, and then we have a parking lot that is between those alleys. We submitted an application to close these 2 redundant alleys. And the reason for that is if we are able to make this a single record lot, then ultimately we could add housing to the site. If we cannot close the alleys, then this lot sort of in perpetuity will be parking, which is sort of out of character with the comp plan. So through our process, we originally suggested a massing that would attach the 2 buildings physically and have a parking garage below. And what we learned was that there's a lot of concern, and rightfully so, about the disruption and the impact of digging a garage on the site because of the sheeting and shoring, the banging that would be required, the potential impact to people's homes, and the disruption that would cause. We also learned that that would require relocating the gas main that connects to our neighbor's building right here and could impact the ADA access to their building on the side of the alley. And so we went back to the drawing boards and came up with a proposal to not build anything in the existing alley network and only build in the current parking lot area. It also would eliminate the need to be able to excavate and instead do podium parking instead of doing a garage. So let me scroll down. Oops. So what that looks like is the existing 15-foot alley as it currently exists is usable by anybody at any time. There's no change to that. And the outline of the new building would exclusively be on our parcel with a 12-foot setback from the western alley that's a pass-through from Ordway to Porter. The trash would remain on this side, and I'll come back to the trash in just a moment. And then because there's a natural 4-foot grade change over the course of this parking lot, we would lay back, as in we would just dig out a little bit of dirt as opposed to excavating properly to be able to make a level parking podium at the same grade as this section of alley. So cars can turn in and park here for 8 parking spaces. Currently, the parking is used by our retail tenants. We want to limit that disruption, and also have the opportunity for some parking for the future residential tenants as well. Um, Coming to parking and trash and loading, a couple important characteristics of this. By not actually physically prohibiting the use of this alley, smaller deliveries can continue to be made to the restaurants just as they currently are with no change at all. And on the west side, again, planned north, for the pass-through alley, we would meet DDOT's requirements that the trash trucks would need to pull in, load, and pull out without blocking the alley. Currently, they have to pull in, load, back up, and pull out, and that doesn't meet DDOT's current requirements. One of the questions and really good comments that came up on the conversation was if there's a way to be able to consolidate the trash more on the north side, and that way orient the commercial trash here, which is pretty much what the tenants currently do, other than some of them do cut across the parking lot right now. They wouldn't be able to because of the structure. We were also tasked with identifying different compactors and understanding the decibels and the frequency of the use of that to see that that's a way to control for rodents and also control for the amount of space required for trash. So that's loading and trash that we talked about. And then on the next slide, you can see the footprint of the building, which would have exterior steps. Three would connect to the 3 single level units, and then 3 vestibules would then go upstairs to townhouse style units. So our goal from the onset was to be able to provide more family style housing in the neighborhood. This reduces the total unit count from 9 to 6. And the configurations of them generally are 3-bedroom. So just jumping ahead, we did a layout of the massing to get a sense of the height. One of the challenges of the site is that Connecticut Avenue is the address, and so the heights are measured from Connecticut Avenue to the back. So there's a 10-foot grade change from Connecticut Avenue to the alley. So when we reference height, this is 48 feet from that point, not the 58 feet from Connecticut Avenue. And then we did some 3D images. So in this image, what you're looking at is Ordway Street with a grade change up to the west. And then we actually measured and modeled out several of the houses, which I thought was actually really helpful because some of the neighbors had some great questions, and we were able to fly into the model at different vantage points to take a look at it. And then in the distance, you can see the building to the north, which is the Snowles family building that has Siam House in it and a number of residents. And then behind that would be the firehouse, the former Walgreens, and then the apartment building on the corner of Porter. So just to give a sense of the scale of what that looks like. So this does result in about 10 feet higher than the neighboring building to the north. And then we looked at a section of what that looks like from Connecticut Avenue, just to be able to understand the height as it relates to the houses to the north. And you can see it's just shy of the height to the houses of the north. Again, about 8 feet higher than the building, sorry, to the west, excuse me, and 8 feet higher than the building to the north. But then we also did some 3D images that could help better explain that. So here we are standing outside of Laredo, looking back up the alley to get a sense of how does that massing compare to the existing townhouses along Ordway and the building to the north. You can see the perspective is fairly helpful to get a sense of that scale. And in the next shot, this is looking from the pass-through alley that goes from Ordway to Porter, looking back down at the project. And then here we are standing in front of the School of Rock across the street in Connecticut, looking back at the project. You see it just barely visible from across the street. And then the last slide are examples of some design precedent. We haven't gotten into actual design, but we thought it'd be helpful to be able to include that once the massing is concluded. because ultimately this case does need to go before HPRB, and we have a lot of work to do to be able to figure out what the design looks like and how that feels. So here are a couple of different ideas. Here's a brick treatment. Here's a wood, but generally a more modern look with juxtaposition of windows to be able to provide privacy both for the residents and also for our residents and also the neighborhood residents based off the position of that. So that's a high level of what we've worked through and what we walked through in our presentation. I want to go back to this image. One of the things that was discussed in the meeting was the concern about the 8 feet against the northern building and the mass of this third floor. Technically, it's the fifth floor because Connecticut Avenue is the first, and then blah, 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 but the top floor. And one of the suggestions that was made was evaluate what a setback requirement could look like that. So that is something that our architects are actively working on, is playing with the setbacks to try to come up with a step down that could bring it in more harmony, the proposed building into more harmony with the neighbors and the residential community. And another question that came up was the how we actually physically get water and sewer to the building. And fortunately, we have been able to answer that question in the past 10 days. And the answer is because we have Connecticut Avenue address, because we'll be using the front door on Connecticut Avenue that passes through to this site, because that's where we want our mail and deliveries to happen to keep them controlled and secured. The new water service and sewer service would actually come from Connecticut, pass under our building, and pass under the alley to the new building. So from a disruption perspective, and frankly, just from a cost perspective, that's actually really favorable news because what that means is that rather than tearing up this whole section of alley to bring water and sewer to the building, we would be coming across our property and only going across this 15-foot section to be able to bring it to our site. The last thing that was discussed in some detail was sort of the means and methods of construction and some of the work that would be involved and how that would come together. I think that collectively, I feel very comfortable with entering into a construction management agreement with the neighborhood. It's premature to do that because we just don't have all the details of what this project ultimately is, how it's built, the time. We have to do geotechnical engineering. We have to do a bunch of work. This is sort of a 2-year process at this point, but we are receptive to the suggestion of entering into that and finding ways to make sure that we document as best as we can to minimize disruption and damage to the neighbors. So those were the high levels that we talked through, and I'm pleased to say we're working on those. We're making some progress as evidenced by the water and sewer, and we're hopeful to be able to have an updated presentation to share with the community soon.
Super. Thank you. Any questions from commissioners or committee members?
Well, Chris, first off, thank you for your flexibility. I know this meeting's run a little bit long, and also just appreciate you being willing to come and speak to us again. I know this has been working its way through the process for a couple of years now, and we've called you to present a couple of times now, so appreciate your consistent engagement with the process. So I think you answered my main question, which was just going to be an estimate of when we can see kind of a consolidated plan that includes all the different updates that we just went over. So if you have any kind of projections for a date when we could see that and then pass it to the neighbors, I think that'd be very helpful.
Yeah, Jay, we'd like to have that done before the holiday.
Okay.
I don't think we'll be in a position to be able to coordinate everybody's schedules to do a formal presentation of that before the holiday. I want to be mindful of everyone's schedules, right? So
No, completely. But even just having something that we could share via email, I think would be helpful. So that's great. And then appreciate the note about the water and sewer. So can you confirm what that kind of change to the plan for the water and sewer, that this is going to be pretty minimal excavation in terms of getting those sewer lines in? I mean, it sounds like it's a lot less disruptive than going in through Ordway. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So that means that we don't have to close off the 2 sections of alley that run out to Ordway. So instead of the water and sewer and utilities coming in from Ordway, that means they're coming in off of Connecticut, passing through our building, and then just crossing the closed section of 15-foot alley to the new construction. So importantly, that doesn't disrupt the use of the alleys.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from commissioners or committee members? Questions or comments from the community? Or others who are lurking?
Do we need to raise hands, or
That would be super helpful.
I'm looking for the icon. Sorry.
You can go ahead since no other hands went up before yours.
Okay, thank you. Chris, thank you for the updated presentation. Really appreciate your work on this and continued kind of working through these issues. I think the community appreciates it very much. I think one of the questions, and you don't have to necessarily answer it now, but because it's kind of a big one, but it's related to the idea that the zoning changes are fairly significant, and by right, you'd be able to do more than what this plan suggests once the alley is closed. And so this idea of a commitment, this binding with respect to this property and parcel on what this final project will be in terms of limitations. And I know you have geotech work and other types of work that must be completed to know exactly what this thing looks like, but some sort of a legally binding commitment that the structure that would be constructed would conform within certain limits. And then also appreciate the willingness to enter into the construction management agreement. But I think the idea of an alley closure, which is you noted, is the linchpin step on this thing, because things can't get built till the alley's closed. But once the alley's closed, the parcel's consolidated, the world changes, and things move forward in a different way. So without knowing what that thing looks like or having commitments around it, I think that's part of it. And then the other thing I would just note is that it is a fairly materially higher structure than the buildings along Connecticut. And your rendering on slide 14 shows the buildings that front Connecticut being somewhat dwarfed by the new project. And I think I'd just like to point out that I think part of the concerns are, even at the scale it is now, which doesn't take advantage of the full additional height allowed under the new zoning, that it does cut off a significant amount of air, light, and space for the houses going up Connecticut. One of the things that isn't maybe super clear from the drawings is that all those houses are in a line, and the big red house on the corner that looks like it's a similar height to the new proposed construction are all in a line, and they don't really block any line of sight because those are row houses with outside windows right now. But the new structure is much closer to the alley. So from an angle standpoint, that's relevant because it impacts line of sight and where you're standing. And it's also quite a bit taller than what exists now. And it's offset. In other words, it's further north. So it actually cuts off what limited blue sky there is. So I think obviously the higher it is, the more prevalent and relevant that is. So that's part of the reason for the ask on being very clear on what the limits in height of this will be and what that looks like.
Brad, thank you for those comments, and thank you for the specificity of the why. So let me, I can't commit to anything at the moment, but that certainly will be something that we really think hard about in terms of the setbacks and how we can address those for the next presentation.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Bowen.
Just a really quick note to say thanks, Chris, for coming and talking to us. I feel like you've made uh, a bunch of presentations on this, and I really appreciate it. And like yesterday, we were at the zoning commission talking about the need for building new housing and how our ward and our community is really underperforming in terms of producing new housing and how it's a real value among community members. We had dozens of people testifying to that effect that we want more housing here. And I'm sorry it's so hard to do. But I really appreciate that you're gutting it out and going through this process, and you have to do it. But it takes a lot of diligence and persistence to do it, and I appreciate you doing it.
Thank you, Commissioner Kirby. I appreciate it.
Yeah, there were about 50 community members that spent about 2.5 hours on a zoning commission call talking about the desire, the want, the need, specifically in Cleveland Park and Woodley Park for more housing. I don't think that it is fair to deny this project or to make this project smaller based on just a few folks that are directly impacted for a smaller period of time, right? Can you imagine if somebody denied the house that you lived in from being built? Like, that's what we're talking about here. And it's difficult to outright deny replacing a parking lot with housing for members of the community that live here already or would have to leave here after years of having lived here because they just can't afford to live here anymore. So I think that was very evidently expressed by the folks that testified at last night's public meeting at the zoning commission. So I would just note that, and I think that one of the challenges is that measurement off of Connecticut Avenue with this building, and that it's important to note that all of that is on such a extreme grade up that hill on Ordway. And there is a 5 or 6 story building on Ordway Street in Connecticut that is illegal under current zoning laws to be built. So there is precedent for building a taller in height building there, in my opinion. Anybody else before we go back to Brad, because you've already spoken once. Belinda?
Thank you, Janelle. And thanks to Chris for his presentation as well. I think many of you know that there was a city council hearing that took up the closure of the public alley since City Council member Fruman has proposed legislation to consider closing the public alley. And at that hearing, a number of neighbors came and raised a number of different concerns that were really laid out. And I know we've run so over time tonight that if I may make a suggestion that the ANC take our testimony, our written testimony that's been filed, and add it to the record here so that you all have the benefit of those views, because I don't think everybody there heard the testimony. So that's one thing. And I guess I would ask the ANC members here, since you were at the meeting last night, I wasn't, but how do you see the relationship between the upzoning and this particular project? I mean, putting aside what Chris can do or, what he's willing to commit or not, but from your perspective as ANC commissioners, how would the upzoning affect this project? So just wanted to ask that.
The ANC does not own this property, so it's really up to who owns the property as to what they can financially risk to build on said property. The ANC has been fully and wholeheartedly in support for the past since 2017, well before my time on the commission, although I was still going to those meetings, in support of essentially changing the zoning back to what it had been historically. I think that we voted 6-1-0 to support what the Office of Planning put into the upzoning proposal. And this was based on years, which are documented, started with the comprehensive plan and the future land use map, which had full community engagement. It was fully driven process with the Office of Planning going out, doing multiple studies, um, and having multiple inputs from any and all who wanted to attend these meetings and provide their voice, responding to boards at library or at the Oyster School. So I think to dismiss that participation, it is wrong. And that level of engagement was huge over years. So I think there's a lot to be said on that. I don't know if I don't think you can put a covenant on a property at this day and age that says it cannot be in perpetuity any bigger than this. That's what zoning and the comprehensive plan are used for, due to issues with covenants on properties. So I don't know if that answers your question sufficiently.
No, I think you answered a little bit different question, which was what was the history of the upzoning process, which I know there's been a long history of it. I guess what I was asking is the ANC is considering the issue of closing the public alleyway in light of a plan that Chris has patiently gone through today. That plan has changed over time. And so that the whether to support a given plan depends on the plan itself, right? So with upzoning coming, if that's what's happening, will that plan change again? And if so, do we have the level of support at the ANC and in the community to go forward with the plan?
Jay, this is your SMD. I don't know if you want to weigh in
Commissioner
before.
Paget, sorry to interrupt. I don't think that's a question we can answer because we're not supposed to make decisions at this meeting. So like whether or not we would support it, I don't know. We could say yes, we would or no, we wouldn't in this forum.
Yeah, Commissioner Prinza, that's exactly right. This is not a decisional meeting. I will say, I mean, Violanda, you and I have spoken at length about, excuse me. Sorry, I'm also getting over a cold. You and I have spoken at length about, I mean, our support for more housing in this neighborhood. Both I and the ANC have said over the course of years that we want as much housing as we can possibly get. We have generally been supportive of this effort, and I don't see that really being affected one way or another by the upzoning plan. So I think in terms of the height of the building, I mean, I think that's a question for the person who owns the property, but I think we're in support of more housing in this neighborhood generally. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think you and I have talked a couple of times about things kind of adjacent to this issue.
Yeah,
And I'm
no,
happy
I
to talk
just
more
wanted
about
to
that.
solicit the ANC's views on it. I wasn't asking for a decision, so just batting that around. Thank you.
Brad?
Thank you. I think that it's very easy to support more housing. And I think most people do. But I also think that it's important to recognize that what will not be just temporary changes to the quality of life, air, lines of sight of people that have lived in the neighborhood for some of them for over 30 years. We've lived there for 25. There's a lot of family housing in the area, a lot of higher buildings, as you noted. And I think if you're looking at saying like, look, we can put in 6 new units, but it's going to dramatically affect, 9 households that live close into it, that there's a consideration there and discussion. And again, appreciate all that Chris is doing, but it's pretty dismissive and easy to sort of just be for a principle, particularly when it doesn't impact any of the folks adversely who are kind of quote for this. So I would just say that I think that's an important consideration, and that it should not be just dismissed out of hand.
Thank you. And I apologize if I sounded like I was dismissing anything out of hand. I certainly am not. I was trying to articulate a point that if 8 people objected to like your house being built and your house was never built, or like that goes back and back and back and back, right? So we could still have farmland over here if like that's the only consideration that was taken into play, because there is a larger need, and you do have to weigh the options. And I think Chris is doing a really great job of listening to the concerns, mitigating as much as humanly possible, um, and going above and beyond. I've seen many projects in this city where that wouldn't even be
I totally understand the principle, but going back to farmland feels a bit spurious. And the people that are there now purchased under a certain set of circumstances and a certain set of constructions. They've invested, they've raised their families there. It's not going back to kind of like saying like, well, if there was just farmland, we never like that's not really relevant. I understand what you're saying. I appreciate it, but this is not a parallel situation. So and I appreciate you saying you weren't being dismissive, but it definitely kind of sounded like it. You're kind of like, hey, the rest of the people in this area would like this, but so we will ignore the concerns of the people that are actually impacted by it. Again, this isn't directed at you at all, Chris. I appreciate all you've done for
No,
this.
no, look, I think this is a really constructive conversation, and I appreciate both of your comments and Janelle and Jay's comments. I think this is helpful, and I appreciate that. I do think I have a clarification question for you, Brad. In your commentary about the impact, and um, I think I have admitted some degree of fault, and I don't want to rewind the clock here, but I viewed these as two totally separate exercises. One, the alley closure, and then because the HPRB process is so involved and so specific, that would have answered a lot of questions as we got through that process at that time. And my question for you is, as you view sort of the alley closure as the threshold issue, but then we also will have to go through the HPRB. How are you thinking about, I mean, you've invested a lot of time in this, and I appreciate that, right? A lot. Um, how are you thinking about like that next step and being able to, have that further refinement? Because I think one of the things that I thought was interesting listening to the hearing last night, for the zoning commission, was the point that the Office of Planning kept bringing up of, a lot of these concerns that people have are, HPRB, will be vetted in the HPRB process. And some people for it said that makes sense, and some people against it said, well, no, because then, that could be problematic. But how are you thinking about the HPRB process once we come to an agreement on what the massing can look like?
I will be the first to admit that I'm not an expert on it. So it's a little bit of a black box to me. I think you probably understand it far, far better than I do. One thing that seems to be a somewhat common theme in the area that we live in is that things in the back and behind don't get a lot of scrutiny. In other words, the historic preservation aspect, the things that front Connecticut, things that front Ordway, there's a lot of concern. For example, you want to replace the windows in your home, they should be wooden. There's a lot of concerns. If they're in the front, in the back, you can kind of do whatever you want. So I guess my concern, again, not fully understanding the is that it will not be much of a gating issue past this point because the historic considerations are much more subdued when you're sort of behind the buildings and in the back part of it.
That's really helpful context. Thank you. Vilanda, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, a couple of things. There's the zoning process as I understand it, and then there's the historic preservation process. And
Mhm.
some decisions are made some places and others are not. We're not the experts on that, but it just seems to me that we're talking about the zoning issues at this point. Second, I do want to emphasize I'm living in a two-story row house that's now going to have a building that will tower over the townhouse. So it is relevant to me. Third, I would say the position that if we push back, we are denying people housing, therefore one can't push back. That's not what zoning's about. Zoning's about trying to balance different neighbors' interests. The interests of increasing housing, which by the way, we are all for. We all grew up, the people on this screen, in big cities, in big apartment buildings, in fact. So we're all for big housing and increasing housing, but we need to balance what already exists.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate that additional feedback and context. Janelle, I don't want to take anything from you at this point. I am looking to be able to circulate some updates for your feedback or for your review before the holiday. I do want to take the council member up on the the opportunity, and Commissioner Bose on the opportunity to be able to have a follow-up meeting, whether it's in person or whether it's virtual for people's convenience, to be able to answer questions and go through those revised plans. But if there's anything in the intermediate that you wish to reach out to me about or talk to, I'm happy to do that too.
Okay, so do you need us to vote on something at our December 15th meeting? Are you, because we can't,
No,
no.
no, I don't believe so, Commissioner Bose, right?
No, yeah. So the next step is that this is with council for their decision. They'll bring it to a vote. It sounded like sometime after the holidays and into the new year. It'll just depend on the committee of the whole's legislative calendar. They'll put it up to a vote on whether to close the alley, which is what would precipitate the rest of the process moving through. So I would like to write up a resolution for sometime in the next couple of months just to kind of capture all the feedback and conversations that we've had. But I think for the purposes of actual, required paper, I think we're good to go. So I appreciate, Chris, you taking the time to come and give this update and kind of share these conversations with people who weren't able to make some of the meetings.
And also just to provide some clarity on process and the zoning, the comprehensive plan, and the future land use map. I'm not an expert on any of this either. And I don't get paid to do it. But I will tell you that the comprehensive plan amendments that change the zoning and the future land use map that are now that's been signed off by the council and the mayor in that long process. So the zoning change was already made. Or the comprehensive plan change was already made. The future land use map change was already made. Both of those were already approved. The zoning process that is in front of the zoning commission right now, ZC 25-09, is the text and map amendment change that is required by law when the comp plan and the future land use map changes were initiated. Now, the Office of Planning has taken on making the map and zoning a map, making the map amendment and zoning text amendment changes, whereas sometimes that process was done one by property owners after the comp plan and the future land use maps were changed. So the Office of Planning, in the mayor's initiative of her housing goals over the past however many years she's a mayor now, have driven her administration to do the map amendment and text amendment changes from the Office of Planning rather than the property by property perspective. So I just want to make that, because I know it's confusing. I totally understand, like, it's complicated, it's frustrating. 1000%. Been at this for years now, learning. So I hope that provides some clarity as to where we are in the process, and that those zoning changes have already been approved. Or the comprehensive plan map changes have already been approved, and the zoning changes would usually be one-off, but they're not being one-off this time. And everything still needs to be reviewed by the Historic Preservation Review Board, which the Office of Planning had done, and the Historic Preservation Review Board approved the Connecticut Avenue Design Development Guidelines document 2 years ago. Sorry, that was a long way of explaining things, but I felt like there was some confusion that was causing some frustration there, and I just wanted to make that clear. Okay. Any other questions or comments? It sounds like we have a timeline and a path forward for future discussions. Are you all in agreement there?
Yeah, that's right. And Yolanda, Kathy, Brad, all the other neighbors, I mean, I'm always happy to have another discussion like we had at the library. So we'll look to get something on the books either before or after the holiday, just whatever is convenient for you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. And if you could circulate our testimony to the whole ANC, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it very much. And thanks again, Chris. Really appreciate all your time on this.
Can I make one selfish plug? This weekend is the annual tree sale at Eaton. If you're looking for a tabletop or full size, it's your place to come and get a tree. So, and support Eaton in the process. Thank you.
My kids both went there for what it's worth. They're now in 12th and 8th grade, but we went through Eaton and all the way through. So, yeah.
Terrific. So
near and dear to my heart.
So come by and make a snow globe.
I used to work that sale for years.
Mr. Kripke taught me everything I learned about it. So
that was a misery running that sale.
I used your shears for 3 years before you came and picked them back up.
Yeah, I had to pick those back up.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate your time, and sorry to keep everybody up so late tonight on this.
I have a lot of questions about the snow globe craft, though, but for another time. And I appreciate everyone, and I hope nobody is mad at each other in this process, and that we all want the best thing for everyone. Just making the sausage is kind of ugly, so I apologize, but appreciate this open dialogue and this conversation with folks.
I just unmuted myself because I want to make sure I've not been forgotten. We're talking about education. I'm here. I hope I'm on the agenda. I've been waiting. Hardy Middle School.
I don't think
Mr. Kripke was supposed to put me on the agenda. I have an OANC approved grant proposal. He told me to join the meeting.
That meeting is tomorrow. I am so sorry.
I registered for this one and no.
Did he just drop off too?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
I've been here this whole time.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, I thought that was communicated that we had to move everything back because of that zoning commission meeting.
Yeah.
Thought he sent you an email. Sorry.
That's okay. Should I try to come another time?
Um, are you able to join tomorrow?
Um,